Now, so it is 6:05. Me see it much time, so hopefully the rest of the participants will show. I know they did have a little bit of issues receiving the skirt kit, so but I think it's been sorted out and they were actually being delivered. Now, jabo much time, mandamidong again done. So before we actually start, I'm gonna say our Ngudwe Wangazid and Shnabe. Now, Ngudwe Wangazid and Shnabe. Debench get Gisan Shnabe and King. Give it Gadong God in it. Minido win. Shkore, Nebe, Ake, Nodin, Gibe Gadostona, we knocked the wind mong, Mumpishkak Mekong. Debench get Gibi non, Gitch twin dog sit and a Shnabin. One Nogdon jet and the Nijwaso Kinomand winnon. Zagid win, Deboy win, Minardin will win, the Bakal win, the Bardindas win, Quekwats win, Mino Akde win. Debin Skeki Mingo Nong, Debin aware, we nogget win. Kamanan Donong, Gajwe book, Mino Anungo, Megoy Jwe book, Mino Agaba, one is Jwe book. Now, Ani Quok, Minon Quizesuk, Cynthia Wamagwas, Dashnan Kos, Nagon Widot, the National Beatswin, on Dashnan Cosmopi, Kinomatswin Education Body, Minoga Doganing Don Jabal, Mopi Wikomkong. Now, so my name is Cynthia Wamagwas. I am the language and cultural lead here for Kinomatswin Education Body, and I live in South Bay, Wicomakong, Ontario. Now, so so thank you again for coming for these virtual sessions. As you can see, we have our lovely hostess, Sue Rock. So for if you wanted to view the session from yesterday, it was recorded and it will be posted. I will send out an email when those videos will be posted and where. Now, so I'm gonna pass it along to Miss Sue.
Honey. Okay, so this is my crack at technology, and my son was able to help me out with a couple of tripods. So I'm going to do most of the video from this angle where I'm going to be able to show you what we're doing with the fabric, how we're laying out to get everything cut out, how we're going to get our ribbons glued on, and hopefully we're going to get that stage all done tonight. I do have another tripod set up so I can do some close-up work, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing right up close. And I think that's the best way that I can teach, is actually showing. So in your kits, you have 2 meters of fabric. As well, you have a little swatch of fabric with ribbon on it. You're going to put that off to the side. We're going to save that probably for tomorrow night's session when we start sewing. But tonight, we're going to look at getting this fabric laid out. I have the luxury of having a table now. I have folded many a fabric and laid it out on a hallway or kitchen floor because I didn't have the space to do the work. But now, luckily, I have a table. So I want to show you, I'm going to try to bring the fabric up closer. The fabric is folded in half. So you'll see the fold on one side, and that this is called a rickrack, or that's what I call it. I'm not sure if that's what the name is. It's the scrap piece of the fabric we don't use, but that's going to be on one side, your finished edge on the other, folded in half. And luckily this fabric's been folded for a while, so it's actually kind of easy to lay out and make sure it's flat. I'm going to take my coat off because it's getting really hot down here. Okay.
While she's taking her biscogan off, I just want to add in the Nishnabemwin parts to our virtual sessions. So how we say fabric in Nishnabemwin is digigon. Digigon. and I've added on our chat. So every once in a while, just take a look at chat and you'll see the Anishinaabe words posted on there. Now, Skiganon is folded. Skiganon.
Okay, so I'm hoping everybody's got their fabric laid out, ready to go.
Cool. Did you fold it the long way or the wide way?
Lengthwise, and then in half. So I can actually even show you again.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So here's your unfinished edge. Here's your finished edge. I'm going to fold this fabric in half. And then when I lay it out, I usually have the finished edge on this one side. Because I'm right-handed, this is just what works for me. So once you have all of this perfectly laid out, flattened out, you guys got a fresh pattern. As you can see, mine has a little bit of mileage on with some duct tape holding it together, but it works still, so I keep using it. Why waste it? So on your pattern, it says place on the fold. So that's exactly where you're going to place it on that folded fabric. I'm gonna try to bring the camera down a little bit. Okay, so you can see that bringing it close to the top of that fold, lining it right up. And then this is where I don't usually do this anymore, but it's good practice to pin the fabric, your pattern to your fabric before you cut it. So give everybody a few minutes. You just need a couple of pins, one on each corner, just so it doesn't move when you cut it.
So how we say pattern in the Anishinaabe is na bis jigun. Na bis jigun. Na bis jigun.
So once you've got all your four corners secured with pins, you might want to put one in the middle. It's not, just depends how good you feel that your pattern is secured to the fabric. And then we're going to make sure they've got a really good pair of scissors. So fabric scissors, I make sure that all mine get marked. They have a little bow. So nobody touches these scissors for anything except cutting fabric.
Sue?
Yeah?
Before you cut, so I see you put your nabis jigun down, but I see you left a little bit on the edge. So we don't put our nabis jigun right to the edge, right?
On this is that's the table you're seeing. Sorry.
Yeah,
so the pattern is going right to that folded edge of the fabric.
Yeah.
Yep.
To the folded edge, but you see the other edge, so like
This one?
where it's cut. So yeah, so
that
never put our pattern like close to that edge, or like we move it away from that edge.
leave a little bit of a gap, because that's where your fold is, where your fold over is. So you can leave a little bit of a gap at that top.
Ah.
So you can see how that fold is here. and I'm
Yep.
pinning just below that.
Now,
So the pattern is,
for the
yep.
sorry, for the participants, if you feel that the instructions are going too fast or want to speed it up a little bit, just let Sue know. Because I don't
I
want
can't really
anybody
see the
falling
chat.
behind.
I can't really see the
Yeah,
chat. So if you be able to keep an eye on that, maybe.
sure, sure.
So unfortunately, I don't think we are prepared here. I don't have any material scissors. I gave all my pins away. I don't have glue for the ribbon. Like I'm naughty. Like we're trying to hold the pattern and we can't even pin it down because I don't even have any pins. So I think Aurora is gonna have to join, I guess, tomorrow if you're doing it tomorrow. Cause we're kind of SOL. I don't want to cut it and have the whole fabric move, and we're kind of, you know, with nothing.
Well, Cindy, is the session's being recorded, right? So would she
Yep.
have access to it to be able to get caught up for tomorrow? Because the only other thing that I can think of, it would be a real teamwork effort just to make sure your paper, one person's holding that paper down and it's staying on the fold and the other person's cutting.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can try, see what happens.
You can give it a shot. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
And often
Okay,
what happens,
wish us luck.
yeah, you know, let's we can give it a shot, right? And sometimes that's what it is, right? We work with what we have. If you don't have fabric scissors, even if you've got just a really good pair of scissors kicking around that you know will cut through the fabric. I know in my house I have particular fabric scissors that nobody's allowed to touch. And the one thing I didn't send with the pattern was the little cutout for the pocket. So I'm going to show everybody how to draw and make your own pocket pattern. And I ran back upstairs really quickly and grabbed another pair of scissors to show how to do that after. So if everybody's okay, everybody's ready, you're holding your fabric, your pattern, or you've got it pinned and ready to go. Preference, I usually start cutting from the bottom. That's just where I start. And making sure that I'm cutting through both fabrics at the same time. I start cutting.
My gal Aurora, if you have duct tape hanging around, kicking around. So in Anishinaabe, we say gishkodan for cutting. Gishkodan. Gishkodan.
So I'm sure a couple of you see the pattern and thought, that's a pretty skinny skirt. But this is the magic of cutting the fabric on a fold. And we've just cut out our two panels, the front and back of our ribbon skirts. So I'm going to take one that I've cut. Boom, here's one full panel. And I'm going to move it for now. So this is where I'm going to show you a really quick trick on making your own pockets. Just had a regular 8.5 by 10 piece of paper. And I use my own hand. Not sure how much more I could get a little closer. But I use my own hand as kind of a guide. So it looks kind of like a dog ear. I call them floppy puppy ears. But this is where it's fitting your hand and drawing this little L shape. So this one I made is it's a little bit on the big side. I can actually probably cut it down a bit. But that's what we're going to use this excess for. So I notice when I had it cut away, I didn't throw it away. I just kind of pushed it out of the way because all 4 pieces of fabric right now are directly together. So I'm going to cut out my pocket pattern that I just whipped up with my paper scissors. So again, it looks like a little dog ear. And what we do, this is where your hand would be going in. So this is the piece that we're going to put right on the edge here. This edge has already been cut because we just cut our skirt out on it. So we line that right up to the edge. Again, you can hold it really tightly or grab a couple of pins. Make sure you're going through all 4 pieces of fabric because you need 4 pieces for your pockets. I just held up 5 fingers. Okay. So the entrance to the pocket is at the edges.
So how we say pockets in the Anishinaabe one is beandogan is for 1 pocket. Beandoganan is 2 pockets or more. Beandogan, maga beandoganan.
So from our little pattern that we drew out, there's 4. And the way that we kept them on the fold, they actually match. So pattern side out, everything's all matching. Right now though, now that these are cut, we're going to put them aside because we don't need to cut any more fabric. We're going to put them aside and we're only going to be needing them when we start putting the skirt together. So, but they're cut out. We'll put them aside. And I like to save these fabrics for a good friend of mine who likes to do quilting. So a lot of the scraps from your cotton, I know I've done it before, is made a couch quilt. So just a small one to cover yourself on the couch, but I was able to reuse and recycle the fabric that I didn't use in making a skirt or a shirt. So we're going to go back and get one of our panels. And when you open it up, you'll be able to see the smaller, like what part is the top and what part is the bottom based on the width of it. You'll see that that waist is a little bit smaller. I'm going to bring this camera up a little bit. So we're going to lay your fabric out. Move my ribbons out of the way. Ooh. Try not knocking over the camera. That would be a good idea. All right. So in getting your panels ready for putting the ribbon on, we're always working from the bottom up. And for the placement of the ribbon, I don't like to start too close to the bottom, only because when we go to size it to make sure it's the right length, if we have to cut a lot off, we're not getting too close to our ribbon. So our first measurement, get your measuring tapes out and your chalk. I have this handy dandy little piece here. And then from the bottom line of your fabric, you're going to put it on the 12. You're going to measure 12 inches up from the bottom. And you're going to make a little chalk line. So I'm going to switch the camera so you can see kind of close up what I'm doing. Pardon me for my extra movements and
Now, how while Sue's getting her camera ready, I put under chat Zenba. Zenba. Miejikidin ribbon. That's how you say ribbon. Zenba. Minogia. I think. Oh, okay.
is that sideways? Am I sideways? How's the view?
You're.
Ooh, it's holding. Okay. Okay, so bottom of your fabric here is here, the bottom of the table. Ooh. 12 inches from the bottom. Chalk line. And I do that all the way across. It doesn't have to be one solid line, but a series of little ticks with your chalk at 12 inches from the bottom. So can you see my little tick marks? It's not a consistent, it's not a full line. So however you want to place the
Does
colors.
anyone?
Oh, it's okay.
I was just gonna say, does anyone have any questions so far, or need Sue to repeat? Just give a thumbs up if you guys are good. Now how? So I'm just gonna assume everyone's good so far.
Okay.
Sue,
Yeah.
could you just show how you unfolded the skirt again before you made the marks? Just because I was having some scissor issues.
Oh, okay. Once your panels are already cut, just separate them because you're going to have two panels.
Okay.
And just put the narrower part to the top. That's your waist. And I always start my work from the bottom of the skirt up.
Okay, so you just have yours kind of folded to shorten it up a little bit to work with.
Yeah, it's just kind of rolling over the table, over the edge of the table right now.
Awesome.
Like I said, I used to do this on the floor on my hands and knees and trying to lay everything out and chalk my lines, and had to figure out how to work against the grains of a hardwood floor. So I had to make sure I was always going the opposite way. So it made it interesting, right? So I worked with what I had.
I'm on the floor. Do the same thing.
And you know what's funny is I have a cat and a dog, but over these years with my cat, you know, oftentimes laying the fabric out on the floor, getting it ready, and I turn my back to get a drink of water or something, and I come back and the cat's laying in the middle of the fabric. So that has happened to me a few times. Okay, so grab your glue sticks. The best sticks, I love these. These are dollar store Elmer's glue stick. It's a washable glue. So even if you happen to hit it somewhere randomly on your fabric, it washes off really easy. And you don't need a lot. So I always say just put little blotches directly above your chalk lines on your fabric.
Sue, oops.
Yeah.
So we don't have any glue as well. Like I said, this is really rough. So what can we do? Like, is there a sewing area now, or like?
We're not going to be probably starting any sewing tonight.
Okay.
It would just be the prep. So the only other thing that I do, and it makes it a little bit trickier when you are sewing it, is holding the ribbon on those chalk lines. You can do that. It's just usually for first time sewers, I want to try to give them the easiest and safest way for them not to you know, sew off their measurements or anything like that. So
it said in the letter that there was glue sticks. I don't know if there was glue sticks in there. I didn't see any in the pack.
There was supposed to be glue sticks included in the packages, so
that's what the letter says, but I don't know if there was any.
Yeah, so they must have forgot to add the glue sticks in the packages. I was just gonna ask that question because I was gonna say, like, there should be some glue sticks in there. So maybe, do you have like Scotch tape? Maybe you can like just temporarily like tape it on.
Tack it down.
Okay.
Right?
I think we have some. We're gonna go and look. Okay, give us a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe pull out some of the powwow duct tape, you know?
Yeah, everybody's got a little bit of tape somewhere.
Yeah, hockey tape, you know, like.
Scotch
Just
tape would
something
probably
to
be the best one because it's not going to leave any gumminess or
glue
stickiness on your
residue, right?
fabric.
Yeah, yeah.
But if everybody else,
So how we say,
when you have your glue
oh,
ready to go, we have a question.
no, I was just gonna
Oh.
say, how we say glue in the Schnabben one is bigu. Bigu. Oh, Waksha says goksagan, which is the same thing. So like bigu is like the gummy part from like a tree, like the tree sap, you know, like a pine tree. So
Nice. Yeah.
that's what you would call that is bigu. So Wakshas does a lot of crafting. Wakshas is my daughter. And yeah, she likes to call it goksagan because where that word stems from is like you're attaching it with something sticky. Goksagan.
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, with our handy dandy little glue sticks, if we have them, these are something that every time I go to the dollar store, I grab 2, 3, 4 at a time. Like I said, you're gonna put little blotches on your fabric above those chalk lines, not too big, like the same width as the edge of your glue stick. And then I put a little bit on the back, not a ton, a light coat on the back of the ribbon. Then I flip it and match it up to these chalk lines. And then just lightly press until I've got it all the way across. I think I was a little bit cheap on that glue. Cut off any excess at the end. So I think one of the easiest ways to learn your first skirt, I'm not sure how everybody is feeling comfortable wise. I hope that I'm not going too fast or I'm not going too slow. So you do have some options with ribbon skirts. Obviously, how we're going to place the ribbon, it's up to you. But keep in mind, each design is sewn differently. So if you see this, we've got them spaced. They're obviously not spaced a perfect amount apart, but you get the idea that usually I gap them at about an inch apart. But seeing like this, when we do sew it, we'd have to sew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 full lines. Where if we place them, lift that up a bit. If we place them stacked, like how I was referring to some of my skirts that have several rows of ribbon, it still looks very nice. But considering we're doing a quick project, a ribbon skirt 101, this would probably be our best bet because we're only sewing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So I'm going to prep my skirt here exactly like this. I'm going to repeat the same. Well, this is the easy part. When you stack ribbons, you only have to do the one measurement. So with that first row of ribbon down, it's already been measured at 12 inches up from the bottom. I'm just going to take my handy dandy glue stick, put little bits of glue right above that ribbon on the back of my next color. And then very carefully line these ribbons up so they're not overlapped. They're pushed right up against each other. And then I usually like to press from the middle out. And then you can cut off any excess. So this is what you're doing for the next two colors as well. So I'm just going to keep going.
So na gwing is the center. Jigang is like to the edge. Jigang.
So don't feel rushed that I do this process kind of fast. Take your time. Make sure these ribbons are not overlapped on the edges, that they're just nice and flush to each other, even. I've got one more. So everybody has 4 colors of ribbon in your kit. However you want to place them, that's up to you. Whichever color you pick to be wherever, that is totally up to you. I just went with this color because this is the color that I picked. It matched the best with the fabric that I thought, and here we are. This is a good part about having washable glue, because if you drop it, or if it happens to touch the fabric in a different spot where it's not going, don't worry about it. It will wash up good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my second panel. So it might be a little fast. Don't feel rushed. Please take your time. But what we've done on this one panel, we're going to do the exact same thing on that second panel. So I'm going to put this one away, lay it down so the glue has time to tack up. Like I said, I'm not sure if we're going to get to sewing tonight. I'm not sure what time it is right now because I can't see any clocks or anything where I am in my basement. So depending on how far we get tonight, we might get a couple of things started, but this is our base. Put this aside so the glue can dry.
So just letting you know it's 6:44, so still have an hour and 15 minutes.
We got lots of time. So depending on how fast everybody gets, their ribbons on tonight, set, ready to go to start sewing, we might be able to start tonight. I'm going to show you, that's where your scrap fabric piece is going to come in handy with the ribbons already glued on it. We'll get to that part, I think, after we get our ribbon set on both of our panels. So
or Sue,
Yeah.
or maybe talk about the sewing machine, like how to set it up, like with
Yep.
your bobbin.
Definitely be all prepared to ready to start, right?
Mhm.
So again, recap, same thing that I did on the first panel, you're going to do on the second. So 12 inches from the bottom of the fabric. And take your little chalk. Make a series of little lines all the way across at 12 inches. So my 12-inch chalk line's done. Gonna use my handy dandy glue and little blotches all across above that chalk line. And then all the way across on the ribbon. And then place. And then from the center, out to the edge. Okay. And then once you have that base one down, that base ribbon measured, the next ones come easier. Glue on your fabric. Glue on your ribbon. And then again, take your time to match these up to each other.
So we would say nosop for like something that's the same. So what Sue is doing is she's like nosop and then moving to our the nobistrigan, our pattern. You can say those two words for to say, like you're creating that same pattern, but in this case with the ribbon. So nosop, nosop. Now how? So while she's doing that, maybe we'll just go really quickly with the colors. So there's like Mukadeonde. Mukadeonde is black. Mukadeonde. And then there's ne Ke onde. I know lots of people like to say Ki onde, but I like saying Ke onde because our earth is like a brown color. So Ke onde. Mira spino. So like when you look at the earth, it's a dark brown, right? And then the color that Sue just put down, it's almost like a sand color, I guess. So like how we say sand is żółtkie, and to say the color of, like certain sands, like in my area, I would say, like that third color would be żółtkie onde. So like in Anishinaabe, when you can say any color you want, just by adding the onde at the end. So onde is color that is not alive, and onze, so like the ending changes. Onze is color that has a heartbeat. How? So that, like the black, I would say makadeo onde with no heartbeat, or makadeo onze for a heartbeat. Black that has a heartbeat. Ke onde, maige ke onze, mirashmino, and then joshke onde, maige joshke onze. So the difference between those two words is one has a heartbeat. Let's say a dog for an instant. So a dog has a heart, compared to, let's say, if Sue's table was black. So the table doesn't have a heartbeat. That's where you would use the onde versus the onze. So you can say any color out there. Just like if I were to describe a color to one of my nichkan, one of my friends, and let's say I'm just going to turn my camera on. So my skin color is different from Sue's skin color. So like if I was talking to my nichkan and we both know Sue, and I'm describing a certain color of an object, I would, and it's the same color as Sue or close to the same color as Sue's skin versus my skin, then I would say Sue on de, my guess Sue on ze. So that's one really awesome, like learning this language is like, it's like you can say any color out there. You just need to know if it's alive or not alive.
The little legs of my tripod are starting to give out. So, as you can see, I did the same on the second panel as that I did on the first. So I am going to give you some time to do that. I'm not sure where everybody's at with that. But the next piece, I think Cindy had a great idea, is doing some basics with the sewing machine. And maybe getting your scrap pieces out as well. We'll work on that in a little bit. But I think the best is to, let's get a look at these machines.
So I'm thinking, Sue, maybe we can take a little break.
Sure.
So it is 6:54, almost 6:55. So maybe if we can take a little break and have the participants, like catch up, or like continue doing what they're doing, adding their ribbon on. I'm not sure where you guys are at the moment. Kwazasak, Magekwoke. So maybe we'll take a 10-15 minute break. Which one would you prefer? And then we'll meet back again. And then we can go through, like those scary looking machines that you have over there. Just now, how does that sound for everyone?
Nishin.
Nahao. So let's meet at, what do you say, 6:10?
7:10
6:10 no.
That's
tomorrow.
it's been a long day.
Tell me about
Ah,
it.
7:10 is what I meant to say.
Now.
Nahao, 7:10. We'll meet back here again. Nahao.
I'm just gonna fill my bobbin really quick.
Nahao.
And then I'm actually going to I'm not sure like if everybody has their thread and bobbins like ready to go. I could also save this part to show as well.
Yeah, maybe say save it for after our break,
Okay.
because I know there are some, like new
Yeah.
learners. So
Okay, so I'm
how
going
about you
to save
go
all of
take your
this
break?
then.
Ani kinawiya. So it is 6:10. Just kidding. Nishagono. 7:10. Now, I hope everybody had a quick little break. Go get your beach, get your water, or busy putting on the rest of your zenba. Zenbun is how you would say more than one ribbon. Zenba is bejik ribbon. Zenbun is oshma bejik, is more than one. Now how? So I will pass it on to Sue Minois.
All right, so I'm here. It's a little bit tricky. I wanted to try to give a better shot of my sewing machine. So it might look pretty fancy. It's the good old Walmart special, a Singer heavy duty, and I've had it for I think almost 4 years now. And the one awesome part about sewing machines that I have learned is once you learn how to thread one machine, you could pretty much thread any machine. They all have similarities, and they all, from what I've found, even with the newer models, they still provide a number sequence and how to put your thread through the machine. So I'm going to start basics and show you how to thread a bobbin. So in this case, I'm going to grab this and do a little bit of a zoom in on my machine. So this is where my bobbin goes in the base of the machine. I always tell people with new machines, don't use the old steel bobbins that some of our grandmothers and aunties still have kicking around. With the new machines, they tend to cause problems. They don't fit well. As well, when you're buying bobbins, it's to make sure, I'm trying to make sure my little tripod doesn't tip over here. When you're buying bobbins, that they're completely flat. Pardon my bandaged finger and my ugly looking nails right now, but here's your bobbin and it's nice and flat. So step one, we've got our thread. On my machine, I'm not sure if we can quite, I'm not sure how to maneuver that. There's a little peg that thread goes on. And they usually come with a little stopper. We're going to put that on and make sure your thread doesn't go flying away. And then you're going to gently pull your thread around this first little station. It looks like, how well you can see that there. Looks like a little knob. And the picture, I'll move the dust off my machine. It shows we're going to go around it twice. Okay, my phone didn't drop. So I'm going around it. Well, almost twice. It's kind of 1.5 to say it's fully around that piece. And then you're going to take that end of your thread and your plastic bobbin, and you're going to thread from inside out the top of the bobbin. And it's going to look like that. And you're going to set it on this other little steel peg here at the front of your machines. Click it over, and then you're going to push it. You'll hear it click. Keep holding your thread. And now you're going to hit your little, I call it my gas pedal. It's your sewing pedal, but it's funner when I say it's a gas pedal. So with your thread, still hold it up nice. Start pressing that pedal. You can cut off the excess after it's started. But then I'm just going to keep holding the pedal and filling up that bobbin. And once it's full, it'll stop. I'm stopping it. Usually it will stop when it gets full. So when it's full, you're going to pull that little bar back, and as you heard it click, I'll do it forward just so you can hear. Then lift your bobbin off. Cut your thread. Now we're ready to put that in. So this is going to be tricky for me to hold the camera, not for you to do this. Once you got this down pat, it's easy. I say that, but I've done this for a long time. So with your bobbin here, can you clearly see the direction of the thread?
Yes.
Okay. That's exactly how you're going to set it in this machine. Sometimes there's little variations on machines, but I like this one where the bobbin is in your main table. And the thread, there's a tiny little catch in there. Your thread does have to catch that, and you just kind of hold the thread to the back. That piece is done right now. Now, pardon the camera movement. I'm doing my best to give you the best angle I can. So now with your thread here, you're going to look on the tops of your machines. So if you look on the top of this machine, I'm going to show you. Hopefully you can see this all. Here's the number 1. And it's just the slightest little hook to say the thread is underneath it. And of course, because I'm trying to do this with one hand, it's not going to go easy. Okay, now it's in. So that's your number 1. Number 2 is around this little hook piece. And then if you look at the front of your machine, it's usually your number 3 and 4. Okay, you're going to bring that thread. Can you see that? Bring that thread up. And then I need another hand. There we go. All I did to bring that piece up was turn the wheel on the side. So my thread is going around it. This is number 5. So you see it goes around and it kind of hooks in there. Almost like a fishing hook. And you just pull your thread down just gently. You don't have to pull hard. Always be gentle, because if it is stuck somewhere, by pulling it, you might actually do damage to your machine. So now I've got it at 5. 6 is just a small little loop. There is no number to the 7, but there's a little hook above the needle. Ooh, okay, and I can't do that with one hand. I have talent, but I'm not that talented. Okay, so once it's after all through those loops, I like to clip the end, cut the end of that thread again, just to keep it fresh. So it's easier because you're going to put it through that needle. And I don't have the biggest hands, but it still makes it easier to thread your needle when the pedal is down. The latch for that pedal is on the side or the back of your machine. So once it's threaded through that needle, and lift my pedal up and go close again to see that I put the thread through the center of this pedal piece and push it to the back. But I want to go back and I want to hold that. Too bad I can't Zoom. I like to, I have a friend coming tomorrow night that's going to help me doing some more of the close-up work. Excuse me. So once your needle's threaded, your bobbin's sitting here with the thread at the back waiting to go. That's where I'm going to come on the side and grab this wheel and turn it towards you. And it brings the needle down and catches your bobbin thread. And that's when you do gently pull up on your thread. It's going to catch the thread on the bobbin. I usually use scissors to go in. You're going to see a loop of thread from your bottom and pull it out. Now both of your threads are on the top, and I can put this little plate back into piece. So thankfully there's a recording of this, so you'll be able to go back and see, to watch it maybe slower. I apologize if I'm going too fast. I am really excited about teaching sewing. I really do love it. So I find after you get all of these little directions, it makes things a lot easier. And knowing how to thread a machine is crucial to any machine. You do not have to have a heavy duty machine. I have machines here that are older than me and still do the same work. So once your machine is threaded, you're ready to go. Your thread colors, it can be a base color, it doesn't matter, or a color that matches the skirt, whichever you like.
Question, Sue.
Sure. Yeah.
What is the number of the tension of the sewing machine? Like, what do
Okay.
you recommend?
So when I do ribbon work, I like to do a zigzag stitch. And that's where I like to show off with, say, something like this thread, where you get a multicolor thread, and a zigzag stitch really shows it. Well, in first learning how to do this, regular machines, the tension is always usually set at 3, and that's a normal average tension. But when it comes to zigzag stitching, I bring it down to 2, sometimes 1.5, but usually 2 is okay. It's if the tension is too tight when you're doing a zigzag stitch, you might end up with some snapping of your thread. Another thing that snaps thread is if it's too old. So sometimes I've had that where I thought I was lucking out finding a whole bunch of thread in a drawer that I hadn't looked in a long time. And when I went to thread the machine, threaded it correctly, had the bobbin done correctly, and as soon as I sew maybe 10 stitches, the thread would snap. And I was getting frustrated. I took my machine apart, thinking it was the machine, and it was just the thread. So sometimes a quick change to the thread might be your fix. A couple of other things, and that's why I like to give those little sample pieces of fabric. So not only are you going to practice that zigzag stitch before we do it, but you're also going to determine how big that zigzag stitch is and what it's going to look like. So I always like to keep little scrap pieces of fabric around to see what my stitch is. If I want it smaller, if I'm doing an applique, or if I'm doing ribbon work and I can get away with having a little bit of a wider stitch.
So, Sue.
Yeah.
We did the cross stitch like you recommended for ribbons.
Yeah.
And I just did a practice test, and
Okay.
it's looping, like it'll sew and then it looped in the middle, then I sewed and it looped. I'm wondering, is my tension, I have it at 2 right now, is it too loose, or was I sewing too slow because I wasn't going very quick?
Try it again quick just to see.
Okay.
If that's what it is, and if not, you might have to go back to increase the tension a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm going to grab a scrap piece of fabric too.
Oh, yeah, look at it better. Ooh. Okay. So the top is better with that increase. Hey, no, I just went fast. I'm still on 2. The top is fine.
Okay.
But the bottom looks a little loose.
It shouldn't be too bad. It should work. Yep.
Okay, because the top is fine.
Yep.
It's all nice and tight and not like the first one.
Yep.
So I guess we're good.
Yep, you should be good to go. So that's, and that could just be the variation between your machine and mine, where I have to play around with the tension a little bit. Yeah. And then the size of your stitching, that's your width dial and length. And usually I just kind of play around with them. I have them set right now. My width is at 4. My length is at 2. And I'm going to do a quick zigzag stitch. Pop it underneath, drop my pedal. Oh, no, that's a straight line. So my back stitch isn't the greatest, Remember you saying like the back looks kind of loose or kind of funny? I think my machine needs to be serviced at the same time. Our main concern is making sure that this top stitching is good. So sometimes what'll happen is if we haven't threaded our machine properly, we're gonna end up with little messes on our fabric. And that's why these scraps are good, to make sure that we've done everything right. Our bobbin's in right, our top thread's right, we've got everything good to go. And then we get to do a little practice run. But if we haven't done something right, if you've ever watched somebody else do it or had the same experience yourself, or while you were sewing, it all messed up underneath and everything froze and it looked like what I call a bird's nest underneath your pedal. What that means is that you have to very carefully and without pulling, lift your pedal, take your fabric out. You might have to do a little bit of cutting and cleaning up, but it means you have to rethread from the top. It means something is out in this top. So if you have a mess up on the bottom, you rethread the top. If your mess up is on the top of your fabric, that means you got to redo your bobbin. Something's wrong with the bobbin. So sometimes the best thing I recommend to learning is keeping trying, using those scrap pieces of fabric just to get the stitching right, redoing the threading, learning the threading and how to thread the top and your bobbin, how to fill a bobbin. Those are your basics. And if you know how to do that on one machine, like I said, you should be able to pretty much do that on any machine. So for this project, you're going to want to make sure that you have a bobbin filled. I don't think you're going to need two filled. Most likely we should be able to get most of it done with one. The design work anyway, possibly. But if you have a on filling the bobbins. And I don't know if you've seen me earlier, use these, the office dust-free cans. These are fantastic to clean out sewing machines. It gets rid of fuzzies, especially if it's an older machine that's been put away for a long time. It's best to give it a dust out as well. Most of the machines have an oil with them. Worst case scenario, if you don't, some of the older tins of a WD-40 might work, but I would just be a little bit more cautious on using a darker oil, because once you take your machine apart and oil everything up, you have to kind of let it sit, wipe off any excess oils, and then run through some scrap fabric, because that oil's eventually, some of it is going to move down where it needs to be, and some might drip on your fabric. So I always say do some practice runs, keep these little scrap pieces to check your stitching, as well as to help out when after you've cleaned your machine. So how's that? Am I going too fast? How's everybody? Are we ready to, where are we at?
We're good here. We did a few practice runs. I think I got the right tension, the right numbers. I think we're good.
Okay. So I will put this fancy stuff away. So actually, okay. So I want to do the same have something similar to what everybody else has is my little practice strip. Because this is what I want to show you. Okay. So your stitching is going to be your little front dial. You're going to look for the zigzag stitching. Make sure everybody's got their machine on that zigzag stitch. Everything's threaded and ready to go. We're going to pull out our practice piece. So now I'm hoping this will zoom in as much as I can. I'm going to try to get in. So what my base goal is to line up this center hole, or it's almost like a V triangle at that pedal, like at that foot. That is where I line up. Of course, because I can't quite, I'm trying to do this with one hand and show a camera at the same time. Okay. Can everybody see that that's we're lining up the center triangle of that foot to the ribbon and the fabric. Okay. So I'm going to start sewing. This is going to be fun. Here we go. Now I use that little hole in that foot as my guide and keep it there. And you're not pushing the fabric through. There's a little piece under there. They're called feed dogs, and they actually are pulling your fabric through. Your hands are only to guide it, just to make sure that you're staying straight. Just guiding it. And then when I'm done, pop it out. So then you could see that the stitching's grabbed both the ribbon and the fabric. So this is, I find, it's a nice way to do it. It gives it a nice finish. As well, like I said, you can play around with multicolor threads that match with the material of the fabric, which would make it look fantastic. But doing a straight line, I know a lot of really good sewers that will do a straight line, and I will show you that, but it's going to slow you down a lot. And with my not so young eyes anymore, I'm using reading glasses to do a straight line, but it would essentially be the same, but you'd have to turn your dial to a straight stitch. Line up that foot again with the edge of the ribbon. And then sew. So this is where you can also change the colors of your thread. So some of the skirts I've done are pretty elaborate and pretty obviously multicolored with several different colors of ribbon. So changing the thread out for every single ribbon color is a lot of extra work. It's more tedious. It looks nice, I will say that, but I prefer to go with a color that kind of goes with the skirt overall and stick with that same thread color all the way through my ribbon work. So here's the difference. I know it's a black thread, so I could have, with this color, I probably would have wanted to match up if I was going to do a straight line. but I think I put two ribbons on your scrap pieces that you can give it a try. This is the best way to practice. This is the best way to learn is trial and error, giving it a shot, trying it out. You don't have to sew fast. I know I talk fast and I get reminded that I talk fast and I need to slow down. So don't hesitate to bring me back and say, okay, you're talking too fast, and slow it down or go back to that part. Let me know. So has everybody been able to try out? Are we threaded up? How's everybody at? Where's everybody at?
I think it's at the end. Yeah, we did some practices. Okay, lift it up.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. So the next, I'm going to start sewing your ribbon on your skirt. So we're doing one panel at a time. I'm right-handed, so I always start this side. Make sure I'm on that zigzag. Lining up that foot.
Should we cut off the excess ribbon on the edges?
Yeah, you can. Keeping it close to the fabric, but not cutting the fabric. I know I go over after when I do my stuff with a serger, but if you don't have a serger, you're just going to cut that ribbon close to the fabric to finish it. So I'm ready to start. I'm going to show you. Yeah, sure.
Would you recommend, I know like I've worked with ribbon sometimes for some of my beading projects, and I've used a lighter just on the edge of the ribbon so it doesn't fray.
Yes.
Would
yeah.
you recommend doing that here too, like if participants don't have a serger?
Yes. On the inside, after the skirt's together, once we have it all sewn up, because sergers they're very expensive machines, and it takes a little bit of experience getting used to those. So what you can do when this project is done is, like you said, trimming the excess ribbon right up to the edge, and we'll flip the skirt inside out, and you can take a lighter to just singe the edges of the ribbon. So what it does is it binds it so it doesn't fray. Because when you do wash it, it might fray a little bit on the inside over time. But then again, it would just be taking a lighter and singeing the edges so it doesn't continue to fray. So I'm going to back it up the camera a little bit. Okay, so again, I'm not doing any pushing. We don't have to push the fabric through at all. We're getting it set down, and we're just guiding it, and we're making sure that that little hole in that petal is staying lined up with the edge of your ribbon. So I'm going to start and do one row. You don't have to go fast.
Do we have to backstitch it?
Yes, you can. Yes. I don't, and it's only because I serge. So thank you for calling me out on that. It's really good to do that back stitch just really quick. It's a reverse. It's a little button on the front of the machine. It says reverse. So as soon as you start your stitch, you do 1 or 2 stitches forward, hit that reverse, do 2 stitches back, and then keep going. So what it does is it kind of locks that thread in so it doesn't come apart. So thank you for pointing that out. That's something that I don't do, only because I end up serging the edges. So again, I'm not pushing it. The little feed dogs are taking it. I'm just guiding it.
So how we say taking your time is ningotch. 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 Taking it slow.
So I've got my first row done. So please don't feel rushed. I don't want to rush you. All you're going to do is that same for the next 1, 2, 3. So 5 straight lines of the zigzag stitch. And always remembering you're lining up that little foot pedal to the edges of the ribbon, to the very center of the ribbon. And that way, the zigzag stitch is going to catch both sides all the way down. Always making sure as you're guiding that fabric that nothing's folding under, because even I've done it where I wasn't paying attention and the fabric folded under and I ended up sewing it all together. So that it's lessons learned. This is how you learn. Here's that second row. And then that's all we're doing is these beautiful straight lines, lining up our ribbon to that foot pedal. 3 rows done.
So swe kinabisdonen. Swe kinabisdonen. That means you've created your third row of sewing.
And the last row, that's when I usually flip it around, just so when I'm sewing it, I can make sure that that last ribbon is nice and flat.
So while Sue's sewing the last row, in chat, I added the words sabop, sabobbies. So sabop is thread or like very thin rope. Thicker thread, that's what sabop would be. Sabobbies is smaller of that thin rope or thicker thread. So in other words, it's the actual like sewing thread, sabobbies. And then I also put in chat jobnigun. Jobnigun is needle. So like the breakdown of that word is jobisdon. It's an action word. Jobisdon translates to poking something through. So in Nishnabemwin, every time when you hear, well, I shouldn't say every time when you hear gun, most times when you hear gun at the end of a word, that action word turns into like a tool now. So the job is done, that's the action, but now we're using that tiny little piece of sharp metal, what we call a needle. Um, it's a tool now to do that action. So job gun, the job is done where you are poking it through. Job gun.
Okay, so I've got my first panel done. I just put it off to the side. I'm going to restart or start my second panel. Same process, start from the bottom, lining up that foot pedal with the edge of the ribbon. That's another thing. If you don't drop this, your sewing's going to be all over the place. And to this day, I still randomly forget to put it down.
So unfortunately, we over here at with Aurora, we had an issue. So we were going to start sewing our first panel, the first row, and then the ribbon was frayed, and then it chewed up in the machine. And so we pulled everything out thinking we can get it, but now I think the piece that is stuck, it's beyond where the bobbin goes in, you know, that other metal, that big metal piece where the bobbin goes in.
Okay.
I
Yep.
think it's behind there and I can't, it doesn't have no give. So, yeah, so now this machine is out of commish because I'd probably have to unscrew all the stuff and take it out, but I'm not, you know, not very savvy because I wouldn't know if what else would fall out when I take it out.
Yeah, and it depends on the machine. Is it similar to this machine where the bobbin's on the bottom?
I have a Singer as well. It's a Fashion Mate mine. The bobbin is underneath, like you have to take that whole piece out, you know, it slides off and you open the door to the bobbin.
Oh, is it the one that's on the front of the machine?
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of
Yeah,
almost like a dial.
no, mine is like
right?
it has buttons there, digital. Mine's a digital one on the side. So yeah, so hopefully Aurora can take up with her auntie tomorrow and they can get caught up.
Okay.
Yeah. But she got her ribbons on tonight. She did do some practice sewing, so she did get a feel for the sewing.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it wasn't a complete loss.
And that's the greatest, is like just getting comfortable with it, you know, and that's the first little hurdle to cross. And then when you actually, you know, once she gets that machine going, she's going to be flying. But
yeah, exactly.
But those are little things that do come up. Using a machine that you know maybe you haven't used in a while, or you borrowed a machine, and sometimes things just happen. We very quickly learn how to tinker around with them when it's our own machine, right?
Yeah.
And I always encourage people to, if you have an old machine that is kicking around, is to pull it out, because sharing and being able to teach our kids to sew, I think, is an awesome opportunity.
Exactly, I agree.
I find for myself that I mentioned it yesterday with a bunch of ums in there. I apologize for all my ums. See, I am an adult, and even at this age, I still get nervous, and I was really excited, and I have been very excited to teach these sessions. So making sure that I was up to par was, I didn't think I was going to be that nervous, but actually teaching, this is where I'm at. I don't think I'm pretty sure I might have only said once or twice tonight, so it was a big improvement from last night. This is where I shine. This is where I love to teach people, and I encourage people, if anybody has any questions, even to go back and watch the recorded videos, or you can reach out to me if I've said something too fast, or you're not quite picking up what I'm trying to say, or I'm not explaining it right for you to understand. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll find the best way to explain things and make it easier for everybody to be at the same stage in this process. So by Saturday, I'm hoping that we'll just be finishing up maybe the hem, and putting the elastic in, and being able to take pictures of everybody in their brand new skirts. That's the goal. I think that would be fantastic.
The shed. So we have a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions or further explanation from Sue, now is the time. If there are no questions, then our sessions will start again wobong tomorrow at 6 till 8 again. And I'm super excited to see how far we get tomorrow.
And I'm super excited too. I'm really, like I said, this piece of teaching sewing is where I shine. I really like this part because we get to be creative and I get to show you exactly how I do it and making it not as intimidating to learn, because I find when I tried to learn as a kid, I didn't, here come the ums. When I was a young girl trying to learn, it didn't go so well, and I didn't have the most patient teachers, and it discouraged me from learning how to sew. And sadly, that it was something that I didn't pick up again until I was in my 30s. So I'm not going to say anything too close to give you too much of an idea of how old I am, but I've been around the block a few times, and I've been sewing probably longer than a few of you have been around. And we just get better and we get more creative. I'm slowly starting to bridge off of these skirts and trying out some other fashion, making patterns out of newspaper. It's been a fun time, a best way to learn with some of my grantees, my aunties, and some grandmas and nokmas that have shared their tips and tricks over the years on little things to do. That's the best part. And it's an honor for me to be able to be asked to do this, as well as share the information that I do have. I do get a little excited, and I'm a little bit nervous at times, but I have the best of intentions. And if you need me to slow down, by all means, ask me to repeat, or feel free to ask any question. So what you can do tonight after this session, if you want to finish all your sewing, all your rows, again, just straight rows. The one panel, your one panel is going to be identical to your second panel. And once your sewing's done for tonight, you can just put it off and we'll be ready to start fresh at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. If you have any questions that you can think of overnight that maybe you didn't think of right away tonight, and you're thinking about it maybe while you're finishing your second panel, or overnight, something comes up that you didn't think of to ask and you want to ask, write it down and make sure you get me to clarify and ask that question tomorrow before we start. And I'm really positive that we're going to have some finished skirts here pretty soon. How's everybody doing?
Yes, on mission. Mission, Kinawea? No, how? So I'm assuming that no one has any questions at this time. So we will resume with our third session, Wobong, tomorrow. Yay! Friday night sewing. Nahau. So we will see you all here, Wobong, at 6 p.m. So make sure to click on the same link as the link that you clicked on this evening. So that's where our Zoom session will be. And then for Saturday, it will be that last link in the email. Nahau. Nahau. Bama Beacon over ya.